What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 644 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, hot tags of the week. What a week this is. It's WrestleMania week. I'm exhausted already, and it's not even really fully kicked off yet. Who am I? Well, not only am I exhausted, I'm also Tony Mango, if you don't know by now. And if you don't know by now who my co-hosts are, we got Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hey.
So shout out to everybody that's listening. Shout out to everybody who's going to join us throughout this weekend. We always want to know what you guys have to say with our opinions and whatever else we talk about here. So drop your comments below on YouTube. Make sure you click on the like button on this video. Make sure you are subscribed. Ring that little notification bell to get those email alerts from when we go live for the post shows, because we've got 3 of them coming up. Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, Sunday night, immediately following NXT Stand and Deliver, and WrestleMania night 1 and night 2. Whew. A lot of trying to catch my breath today. Make sure you are also clicking on that join button that is over there on YouTube. That'll give you access to the same stuff as the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, or you're on the YouTube channel membership, you've got the $1 a month tier. That's greatly appreciated, but so is the Darkcast tier, the Pick Your Poison tier, where you get to request something in particular. I know that there's been some shout outs for doing something like a reaction to WrestleMania 20. I know that somebody, I'm forgetting, I think it might have been XOY, had mentioned about bringing back another mailbag. You always got the option to Pick Your Poison for whatever it is that you guys want us to do. Also, if you want to help us out on the monetary side of things outside of that, the thanks button is there, just like a tip jar, kind of the same thing as the super chats, which of course you'll be able to take advantage of 3 times this week. You got the Redbubble and TeePublic shops for merchandise, not only for Smark Out Moment, but also A Mango Tees and Fanboys Anonymous. If you don't know, of course, what Fanboys Anonymous is, go to fanboysanonymous.com. You'll find it all over there. And if you didn't know already, anytime you pick up something from the merchandise shop going on right now, whether or not you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, which also is an extra vote, and all the other kind of means you can do that, it all counts towards the Funko Pop giveaway that is going on right now, sponsored by fun.com. 3 Rocky Maivia Funko Pops are on the line, so you have plenty chances to win. You still have some days left before that ends. I'm actually forgetting off the top of my head when I'm ending it, but it's sometime after WrestleMania, so get those entries in as many as you can, as many as you want to, while you can, and it's pretty simple. Tweet stuff, share stuff, click on things. You know, every option's free except for the merchandise stuff. And the merchandise options, of course, get you a lot more. So you get to get the merchandise, and you get, I think it's like 10 points towards the entry for each one of those. So do that if you want to get one of those Funko Pops. Smark Madness tournament's going on right now as well. Take advantage of that while you can, and vote on whether you think John Cena or Roman Reigns is the true WrestleMania main eventer that tops the whole rest of the list that we had up there. Check out Discord. That's a thing. Go ahead and do that. And of course, thank you for just tuning in. And, you know, we're going to keep this ball rolling here by getting into the actual hot tags, whole purpose of this podcast. There is too much this week to break down. Let's be perfectly honest. We are not going to be able to touch on every little thing, because we haven't even been checking out every little thing, because there's just too much. Every time I click on any website, I see, an update of things that are not even just like, here's a little story, but it's like, here's a story about 50 stories, or here's a podcast or an interview that has 30 elements to it, and it's a 2-hour long thing or something. But we're going to try our best to break down as many of these hot tags as we can. We've got people getting released. We've got accusations. We've got a tour bus on fire. We've got predictions for 2 extra events and SmackDown tonight. WWE Speed is a thing now with the first 2 matches for that. The CM Punk interview. People are crapping on AEW. AEW's crapping on WWE. It's dogs and cats. It's a whole big thing here. So I don't even know exactly where to necessarily start here, but I guess I'm just going to look at this at random and say, let's go with the Sakura Genesis predictions, because that's the first thing that came to my mind when I'm looking around here. So I, of course, am the third ranking person to know anything about New Japan Wrestling on this podcast. And this is where I look at the card and I go, all right, I don't know, but I'll toss out my predictions. You guys might be able to sway me one way or another with some more information, but it looks like there are 10 matches announced for this. And I, at a quick glance, would not be able to be like, okay, that's definitely a match I would put my, I'd bet the house on for, I think, like any of them. But as a quick rundown of what's going on right now, anything that we should know special before the predictions and anything that you guys are aware of?
No, not really. Just a show.
Do you think it's going to be a particularly good show, or do you think it's going to be something that's kind of just, it's there and, you know, it'll have some matches, some of them might be good, some of them might not, and then they'll just move on? Any like noteworthy stuff?
Well, we'll get to it when we get through the matches, I think, really. As I say, I think that it could be noteworthy depending on the result of certain matches. I don't expect it to be an especially like great show. Nothing that would suggest that it's going to be the best show of the weekend.
That is what it says. It's tomorrow night or afternoon? Or morning?
Should be. Yeah, it should be early tomorrow morning.
After
you guys, yeah.
Like after Ring of Honor.
God damn.
Yeah, pretty much immediately after, yeah.
Well, I have no plans on watching this. I barely am going to maybe pay attention to Ring of Honor. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I'm gonna need to get some sleep in some fashion, so I'm gonna miss out on this entirely.
No, you don't.
I mean, I'm gonna try. Let's put it that way. So then let's start getting into the predictions itself then. Pre-show match says Tomohiro Ishii, Toriano, and Oleg Boltin, or Boltin Oleg, if you want to go in that whole joke that we kept going on for a little while, against Ayato Yoshida, Takuro Niki, and Chicharito Shoki. I'm only familiar with a few of these names, so I'll go with Chaos winning.
I'm also only familiar with a few of those names, so I will go with Chaos.
Yeah, I'll go with the only side that has 3 people that are unlikely to get pinned. So there's only one person that can lose on that side, and that's Oleg Boltin. The other 3 could easily get pinned, so I'll go with one of those losing.
El Desperado and Taguchi against TMDK. Zack Sabre Jr. is in the mix there, so I'm always going to go with Zack Sabre Jr. for almost any of those picks.
I'm probably going to go with Despy and Taguchi because you've got Kosei Fujita right there to get pinned, so I'm going to assume that Kosei Fujita gets pinned.
I think that's a good assumption, but I'll say if ZSJ is in the match, he will probably get the win for the team.
Let's see, with Bushi and Takahashi against Bullet Club War Dogs.
It's Finlay and Gedo. David Finlay and Gedo. So, I mean, it's Gedo's in the match, so Gedo should lose. There should be no reason for Gedo to win a match in any context, even if he's teaming up with Finlay. So I'd assume the babyfaces or LIJ is going to win that match.
That's fair. I would assume maybe Finlay could win, but I'll agree with Callum.
I have no grounds to disagree. Just 5 guys, 3 members of Just 5 Guys, at least. So just 3 against United Empire. Anything going on here, like a particular reason why these guys are going up against each other that can influence?
No, it's just your typical undercard six-man tag before the actual like legitimate matches get underway.
Is that kind of the story of this? Is it like the Yoda Tsuji match is the only one that had any real setup, or are there a couple other matches?
Most of the matches are championship matches, or have like a storyline built around them. It's just that every New Japan show starts with a couple of faction versus faction matches that don't really have any bearing long term on anything else that's really happening on the card.
Just the straight up filler.
Just warm up matches. Just to help to ease the crowd in, gets a few people, other names on the card that aren't involved in big matches at the moment. I mean, yeah, because this one could just pretty much go either way. I'd probably go with Just 5 Guys like that team to win, because I assume they have certain plans for Uemura and Sanada with G1 season coming up soon, and I don't really see much planned for. I mean, yeah, essentially one of either Dookie or Callum Newman is taking a pinfall loss or a submission loss, and I'm just going to go with Callum Newman to take the loss this time. With New Japan, especially in these 6-man and tag team matches, you're always looking at the person who's likely to get pinned on each two.
Yeah. And I'm going to just second that, because, again, like Callum said, a lot of these undercard matches are just sort of there, so I'm going to just agree with what he said.
Yeah, I mean, I would
These
think,
aren't going to have any bearing on anything, put it that way.
I would think that maybe giving Sonata a win back would make sense. But then again, I'm not too familiar with their booking, so, different companies do things differently. Bullet Club War Dogs are also in another match here against Intergalactic Jet Setters. Oh, that's a name. Okay. And
Kushida and Kevin Knight.
For that alone, I kind of want that to be the case. I would kind of want them to win those IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag titles just because I like that name. That's cool. But I tend to lean more on the side of belts stay where they are when it comes to New Japan shows. So I think Bullet Club War Dogs.
I'll give it to the Jet Setters. There's no money on this. I'd like to see Kevin Knight get a championship.
Essentially, the junior tag titles have been traded between Drilla Maloney and Carl Connors and Francesco Akira and TJP for the last bear part of the last year. So, I mean, it would be interesting if they just switched it to the other team in this three-way one. I'm going to assume that Bullet Club War Dogs retain for the time being. And this is one of the belts which you can really just, like, all bets are off in any time they're defended, because they could just switch hands at any point in time.
How would you say that this ranks in terms of, like, importance overall on the championship totem pole?
It's a New Japan tag belt, so it's basically worthless.
Lower than the other one, of course, too, because it's a junior heavyweight. Yeah.
Only just, considering who's holding the current tag team championships.
Well, those are Kenta and Chase Owens of Bullet Club, and they're going up against Bishamon's Goto and Yoshihashi. So, do you think they're going to say the same?
No, they need to change hands. I don't know if they will, but they need to change hands, because Chase Owens and Kenta suck. And they shouldn't be holding any titles, let alone...
No one Kenta doesn't suck.
Yeah, but that was about 4 or 5 years ago. And even then, he was still just working in WWE doing nothing, really.
I was going to say, did he not suck when he was pre-Hideo Itami? Because I was never the biggest fan of Hideo Itami.
Yeah, this dude was one of the best in the world at one point. It was a thing.
Yeah, I go with the assumption that he was pretty much, the injuries caught up with him by the time that he decided to sign with WWE. And then at WWE got injured more, but by that point he was already pretty washed at that point and was just there to pick up a paycheck to get more money for doing less work. Yep. But yeah, at this point in his career, his body's just broken completely.
I don't like Bishamon either, though.
Well, Bishamon have always been a solid tag team, and I think that I kind of like the fact that they're the kind of standard bearers for the tag team division these days. Don't get me wrong, I would like something more exciting to happen, but they've never done anything with the tag team championships. The tag team titles don't really mean that much in any sense for New Japan, haven't probably in the entire time that I've watched them. So yeah, I'd say that you should give it to Bishamon. They're the safest pair of hands to hold that title.
I like Bullet Club.
I'm gonna just stick with Bullet Club while I'm at it, because again, I tend to think that most titles tend to, or at least from my perspective as an outsider, it seems like most titles stay where they are up until Wrestle Kingdom, and then like there's just a few throughout the year.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
that's the thing that I don't pay.
You had me in the first half, and then you said until Wrestle Kingdom.
Because I don't pay too much attention to things. So to me, it's like I lose track of who is champion throughout the year, and it just seems like I never really hear anything because I'm not paying too much attention. So it just always seems like the belts are like, oh, weren't they champions last Wrestle Kingdom? And then every belt changes hands at Wrestle Kingdom. It kind of feels like that to me. So I just always go like, no titles change hands, which I know is wrong, but it just feels like that's like that to me. So I'm like, oh, yeah, these say the same too.
It's a very WWE mindset of just going, the titles only really change hands WWE at SummerSlam and WrestleMania, and that's kind of it.
Which
really.
I'm fighting against all year, boys. That's the new play this year.
Because from my point of view, as somebody who doesn't pay attention to anything other than Wrestle Kingdom, that's how that comes across. The same way that with Impact, it seems like, oh, if there's a pay-per-view, every title is going to change hands at every pay-per-view for TNA, you know? Which, like, you know, statistically may or may not be true, but it just feels like that from an outsider's perspective. So to me, it's like, you know, oh, the tag titles, yeah, they'll probably stay the same. I don't know. I like this next thing.
I'd like an influx of new tag teams, and I'd like just New Japan to improve.
The IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship is Show against Yo, which
this sounds like fun. I mean, not just because they rhyme, because they were Roppongi 3K. I'm looking forward to this. I hope that they put on a fun match. I know that I'm forgetting which one is not in House of Torture right now.
Yo's not in House of Torture.
I know he's doing the gimmick where he just wants to chill, not wrestle, but like, I hope they have a good match.
So his gimmick is that he wants to just chill and not wrestle, and Show's gimmick is that he can't wrestle anymore. In the sense that he's forgotten how to wrestle, and he just fights because he's in House of Torture, and so he just brawls and cheats.
Taking a match that could be great and making it poop.
Well, fundamentally, the next 3 matches you're going to list off, they're all going to be shit because they're all House of Torture matches. So I'm not looking forward to any of these next 3 matches, but we'll see how it goes.
Fair enough.
Show retains, belt stays the same.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, why not? I've got no investment in this match.
House of Torture's Jack Perry and Ren Narita are going up against Shota Umino and Jon Moxley. Now, this, like, of course, I'm, again, not paying super attention, but Moxley and Umino sounds like they should win. But Jack Perry is a hot ticket right now in New Japan, so I could see Umino taking the pin here, and I'm going to go House of Torture winning.
It's definitely going to be Moxley and Umino in this one. But again, if there's one match that I'd bet the house on in this one, it'd be Moxley and Umino winning.
With Ren Narita taking the pin?
Or Jack Perry. Like Jack Perry's already lost in New Japan.
Oh.
He lost in the New Japan Cup.
I guess the tournament.
Yeah. So yeah, I assume that Moxley's going to get the victory because he's fighting Tetsuya Naito next week in the Windy City Riot show. So I imagine he's going to get the victory before that.
In a match, they've been very clear not to advertise for the World Championship, and I wonder why. Yeah, I'm going to say Moxley and Umino win. Let's get to the part where Jack Perry just returns to AEW and joins the Young Bucks. Because that's clearly happening.
Oh no, let's get past that point. Let's get to the point where he's fired from AEW and he's fighting CM Punk in a street fight on like Money in the Bank or something.
Well, I wouldn't. Honest to God, I wouldn't.
I would put way more money on Jack Perry facing CM Punk in a WWE show than Jack Perry ever winning a title in AEW again.
I think I can see that, but with the Young Bucks being like, "Hey, scapegoat, love your work," and constantly shouting him out and tagging him on social media, I think he's definitely coming back.
Yeah, I think so too. Evil against Shingo Takagi for the Never Openweight Championship.
Just put Shingo over, man. I don't want to see Evil. I mean, I have no... Outside of personal preference, I have no reason why Shingo should win, other than I'd rather see Shingo.
Yeah, well, Shingo should... I would say Shingo should win. Realistically, he shouldn't, because he's held the Never Openweight title many times already. He doesn't need to hold this title again. He should be fighting further up the card in terms of world title opportunities, or fighting for the secondary title, which is being held by Nick Nemeth, and surprisingly enough, he's not going to be on this show. Neither is Matt Riddle. Really great job there, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I imagine that Evil's going to retain, but again, it'll just be some more House of Torture BS that costs Shingo the victory. And if Shingo wins, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because I'd say he shouldn't be at this level right now. He's much above holding this title.
The belt stays where it is. Evil retains.
Well, Ziggler was supposed to be on the show, right? He was supposed to fight Tanahashi, but Tanahashi got injured.
Yeah.
That would have been a fun match.
Probably happened down the line then, if that was a plan. And then the main event, the IWGP World Heavyweight title is on the line between Tetsuya Naito and Yota Tsuji for winning the cup, which from an outsider's perspective, and the fact that Yota Tsuji has been somebody that they've been kind of building up from at least what it seems, I would consider that a possibility, but I just kind of feel like maybe that's not necessarily going to be the case here, and that Naito is going to retain, and Yota Tsuji is probably put in this position to be like, well, good job, kid, but not quite yet.
No, I think Yota Tsuji needs to win. I mean, I said this last year when he fought Sonata, but I think Yota Tsuji has all the makings of a top star, and I think Naito is a bit broken down, and I think we need to strap up the young people.
I mean, Naito's going to retain here, I think. Almost certain. I think that he's both taking on Moxley at the next show, where I think that there could be a possibility where a title change happens, depending on what their kind of inclination with that title is. I don't think that they'll have Yota Tsuji win this match just because they're in the same faction. And I kind of take the assumption of if you have Tsuji win, then Tsuji kind of de facto takes over the faction, which I don't think they're going to do. So I'm going to say that Naito retains for now, gives a good showing against Tsuji, like helps her put him over in a certain way, and then Moxley comes out at the end of the show to like stand toe to toe with Naito and say, "I'm coming for that title in Chicago."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's right. Fuck. That sucks. I like Yota Tsuji.
So I like Tsuji as well, but it's just I don't think this is the right person to beat for the title either. Just because, not that Naito wouldn't help establish Tsuji, he absolutely would do because he's such a big name. To beat him would be like a good confirmation for him, but not when he's like in the same faction as him and they're kind of like on good terms. Tsuji should win the title against someone who people want to see him beat, rather than kind of like the de facto ace of the company right now.
All right, so moving on from there to another topic. Instead of going straight to Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor predictions, I figure let's toss a little smaller one out there. WWE Speed debuted this week. 2 matches on those X 3-minute match kind of setup. We finally got our taste of that. Ricochet beat Dragon Lee, and Bronson Reed beat Cedric Alexander to move on with this tournament that, yes, indeed, is going to culminate with the crowning of a WWE Speed champion, which I still hate the name of. I still think High Speed would be better. I still think the Turbo title, like that would be better. Velocity. They already have that thing. But the results of this were kind of surprising to me because I thought Ricochet versus Dragon Lee sounds like that could kind of be the finale of the tournament. And instead, Dragon Lee's just out already. And Bronson Reed moving on. He's not somebody I would picture being the Speed champion. So depending on what the bracket...
Why he's a good example.
You mean to like offset how that...
Yeah.
I mean, that could be their whole plan. I don't remember if they put the bracket out. I'm trying to look it up right now to see if they had like an actual. Okay, so they do. So it's they're on 2 opposite sides of that, and they didn't announce yet, from what I can see, who the other 4 people are. But
they announced half of the other 4.
What is that going to be?
It's Axiom versus JD McDonough next week.
Do you know if they're on the Ricochet Dragon Lee side or are they on the Bronson Reed side?
They did not show.
Okay. So, I mean, if that is the case, I'm kind of assuming we might end up having the finals be Ricochet versus Bronson Reed, and that they just kind of pinpointed that from the start. But then again, it depends on who the other 2 people are. Maybe they have something cool in mind. Meh. I didn't see the Bronson Reed match. I saw the Ricochet and Dragon Lee one, and it was a fun 2-minute and 50-second match, but it's not my thing. It's too rushed for me, and I don't care about clicking on X and watching something like that. So this is not something you're going to be seeing coverage on Smark Out Moment for. I'm not going to be like,
you will get coverage every hot tags as long as every match is the Speed Championship deal, which I don't know if that's the plan, but that's what I would do if I was in charge of a 3-minute show. It'd make every match mean something. Not so much.
If the title changes hands, like I'll have that up on the website as like, you know, the title changed hands. But if it's just, you know, retain.
But like the people who want 30-minute matches from Ricochet, complaining that they don't want to watch 3-minute matches with Ricochet, I don't think they understand how counterproductive that might be. I thought it was fine. I think the concept is fun, especially the Ricochet Dragon Lee match. Like, again, we're not asking you to sit through a whole episode of Main Event here. If you can't do 3 minutes, kind of like, okay, then you're saying people like Cedric Alexander and Ricochet and Cameron Grimes, if he's in it, don't deserve more of a spotlight. I think this is good.
I mean, I think I did watch the 2 matches because, as Rob says, they're quick and easy to watch. But I think this whole concept sucks because like 3 minutes is too short. It makes your people look like jokes. It should be. It should be. Well, it should be. I'd be happy with 5. 5 is enough that you can have, like, if you're going at a high octane style, 5 minutes is fine. 3 minutes is. I mean, fucking hell, Cedric Alexander lost in less than a minute and a half against Bronson Reed. That's embarrassing. And I guess that Cedric isn't like worth anything at the moment anyway. But like that was just like really kind of sucky to watch, really. And like the best thing that I've heard about, seen surrounding WWE Speed was Piper Niven putting out a tweet saying, "All 3-minute matches. This is the women's time to shine." And then they just don't have a women's Speed Championship.
That's pretty good. I like that.
She's very funny on Twitter, but yeah, it's just like hilarious that like they do this like 3-minute long wrestling tournament. It's only men that are competing in it. It's quite funny. I assume they'll do a women's Speed Championship or some iteration down the road. But yeah, I think that 3 minutes is just too short. So I can understand people being. I don't think people were annoyed about like these people wrestling match because like, oh, I just don't care about seeing a match. I mean, I wouldn't care about seeing a match which only has a 3-minute time limit. It means that one of these two is going to lose in less than 3 minutes. That's pretty embarrassing.
I get that, but like I think this is an easy one that you can just at least show support for instead of just being like, well, who would ever watch that? Because then the message being sent is going to be,
we don't want to see a load of 3-minute matches. We want to see these two, like, want to see people having showcased like 10, 15-minute matches on TV instead.
Yeah, I'd rather even see if they did 5-minute matches on Raw or SmackDown. Then I think I could get more into it. But then that's just the Cruiserweight Championship again.
I mean, I'm okay with the idea of it just having like its own little spot on X. That's totally fine. Not that X is I'd rather be anywhere else than X because X is a cesspool. But other than that, like I'm fine with the concept of having its own little show and having its own little featured spot. But yeah, it's like 3 minutes is just too short. It needs to be at least 5 to make it feel like there's any sort of real competition and flow to it. Otherwise, it's just too short. You shouldn't have one of your wrestlers who then is going to go on to Raw or SmackDown and have 10-minute matches with someone else. They shouldn't be losing a match in 3 minutes.
That would be the one thing I would personally complain about is Ricochet won when Ricochet does not have a match at WrestleMania.
Same with Bronson Reed.
Does. Yeah, but Cedric Alexander doesn't. I'm talking like he beat Dragon Lee, who does.
Oh,
have a match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe he loses. Let's talk about this match. Not this match. This hot tag too. this is going to probably have a big influence on what happens at WrestleMania. WWE Clash at the Castle is returning, and it is going to be going down June 15th in Scotland. The logo, of course, switched over to their colors. The posters got Drew McIntyre front and center with the sword, Cody Rhodes and a couple other people. I think Bianca's on there. And this is as good of an indicator as it has ever been that Drew McIntyre either has already signed or that it's like, yeah, even if he didn't, it's going to happen. And I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. That kind of then makes me go, all right, Bash in Berlin, I keep thinking about how's that going to revolve around Gunther? And now I'm like, all right, Clash of the Castle, how's this going to revolve around McIntyre? We have to get through WrestleMania first to see if he even is the champion and how that all plays out. But my gut reaction is to be like, oh, okay, maybe we get Drew McIntyre defending the World Heavyweight Championship against, I don't know, because I guess it would depend on the draft, but like, I would assume he probably retains. And then if he loses it anytime around, then he loses it at the next pay-per-view, which would be SummerSlam. So, like, I'm not anticipating this to be the Punk match. I think that's SummerSlam. But this is cool. Clash of the Castle coming back around.
I'm not anticipating the Punk match until WrestleMania next year.
Really? You're going to think going that far?
I don't think Punk is cleared until, like, October.
Huh.
But the doctors are doing such a great job with him.
Well, yeah, but I'm just going by the prognosis.
The WWE doctors have got magic in their fingers, and they can heal.
I mean, we will see if they have magic in their fingers, but that's my guess for that. This is cool. Clash of the Castle's sticking around. It's in Scotland now. I'll go out on a limb and say Drew McIntyre beats. Let's say Drew McIntyre beats Priest for the World Championship.
I'm not going to make a prediction about who McIntyre.
Oh yeah, but these are worthless. Yeah. I'm just having some fun.
Oh yeah, but it's just way too early to do that. Especially, I think he'll be world champion going into it because I think he's winning it at WrestleMania. But yeah, it's cool that Scotland are going to get this big show after the success that Wales had a couple of years back. So yeah, this is cool to have. Like, maybe this will be like a biannual thing for them to do these Clash of the Castle shows.
Hello. Hold on. You said a couple of years ago. Did they not do anything in the UK last year?
They did Money in the Bank.
Okay. Yes. Sure. Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, maybe again they might do another Clash of the Castle show to do it this year because I assume they're going to do one big PLE at in the UK every year, but maybe one year they'll rotate one of their more regular scheduled shows into that, and then the other year they'll do a Clash of the Castle instead. But yeah, the last Clash of the Castle show is one of the best shows WWE's done in a very long time, so I hope that the presence of the UK crowd will help bump this one up as well. And there are a lot of Scottish talent on the show. It's not just Drew McIntyre. There's like Piper Niven, Alba Fire, Isla Dawn. So there's a significant contingent, and a lot of people from like the
UK,
from the UK
and
side
not
of things.
Specifically Scotland, yeah.
Yeah.
My God, do you
Pete
think
Dunne and
actually...
Tyler Bate on the main roster now? You've got Gunther could be involved in it, of course. You've got Ilya Dragunov that might be coming up for the main roster. I know they're more on the European side, but they did make a big name for themselves on the UK independent scene. So yeah, I think there's a lot of presence that they'll have on that show.
I'm more concerned about the fact that you think they'll actually do something with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. That'd be lovely.
Well, they might just win the women's. I mean, they're doing some like teas on SmackDown now. They're going through a gimmick change. They've stopped being witches now because apparently that doesn't get you booked.
Wait, when did that happen?
Oh, they had like a 2-second backstage segment on SmackDown. I saw it just like flickering on like Twitter. Just saw like, oh, Alba Fire has an idea for Nick Aldis, and it's like, but then they just
and he's like, yeah, away. Fucking talk to me later.
Yeah, I know. But at least they're like, they've done something on TV, which is more than they did for most of the last year. So I guess could be a positive sign for them.
But okay, I hope that leads to something good for them.
I imagine they'll get the tag title match. They might not win, but they'll get the
First
tag
of all,
title
Alba
match.
Fire is good enough to get a world title. But like Alba Fire is good. Let's not.
I'm not saying. That's not an assertion of whether they're good, how good they are or not. It's just what's going to happen. Because
No, I know you're not, but I'm just saying, like, she's very good, and I think people are forgetting because she's not utilized.
I'd go with so many other people above her to where I don't think that they would reach a point where she would be fighting for the championship, but who knows? I mean, we've had Jinder Mahal as champion, so it's like you never really can count out somebody getting momentum and switching things up a little bit.
I'm hoping by the time that comes around that, again, I say hoping, not that I'll be watching, but I'll watch that show, but I won't be watching the build up to it. But I would hope at the very least that Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are aligned with Piper Niven by that point on the same show. Because that would be a good faction.
Nikki Cross in the mix there too, make it a foursome.
Yeah, I think that's kind of cool.
Well, if we're talking patriotism, let's get into this thing. This is actually, I think, more interesting than a lot of other people are. Like, I'm not seeing a whole lot of buzz about this, but I find it fascinating. Coco Jones, that's not the fascinating part. I have no idea who she is going to sing the national anthem at WrestleMania 40. Now, what I find interesting about this, and I put something up on eWrestling News, my Monday morning Q&A about, hey, they haven't announced anybody yet. I wonder why. What do you think is this reason? Is it because they're not going to do it this year, or are they going to do something different? Do they not have anybody locked down? It is very weird that they announced somebody this late. It was like yesterday or so when they announced this. But more interesting than anything, I had tossed out the idea, what if they do the national anthem instead of America the Beautiful? And now it seems like that's confirmed. No America the Beautiful, the national anthem instead, which is as good of an indicator as you can get for Vince is not influencing things. Because we've said, we've seen for 40 years, America the Beautiful is at WrestleMania because Vince doesn't like the national anthem. He thinks America the Beautiful is a much better song. He's not even getting that this year. So that's another good sign that, hey, look, that's not super important. It's not like that changes the influence of like what happens on the card or anything along those lines. Obviously, that doesn't undo the damage of whatever Vince has done to all these people over the years. But it's like, hey, cool. Another thing that is not the way that Vince did it. I like America the Beautiful. It's fine. National Anthem's a little weird of a song. I kind of agree with what Vince actually says about that. But I like the idea that there's change afoot. And that's given me more of a pep than I thought that it would. You guys know who Coco Jones even is? I'm not the person for that. I don't listen to music for like bands and musicians, so I don't even know who does songs I like,
I don't know who Coco Jones is outside of the what was written up that she had won a Grammy.
Well, so did Homer.
I mean, yes, you're correct. I when I saw this, I sent it to you and I said, okay, well, that's just them being like, that's to send the message that Vince is out. And I mean, if you want to cover that up, you can say, yeah, well, the national anthem is the tradition. It's what everyone else does. So why wouldn't we do it? But I think it's more just to send that message that Vince isn't there. And Coco Jones is apparently somebody who got her start on the Disney Channel and is now just doing music in general. She's also on Abbott. She's also done a song with Abbott Elementary actor Tyler James Williams. So, I mean, she's clearly in the zeitgeist for those that don't have their heads in nothing but the wrestling bubble, which is good. Good for them.
Or too many gray hairs like me.
You look way better than that guy from the Bond movies.
For anybody that followed the Review to a Kill series, one of the dudes from Goldfinger was at 38, and it's like, man, I thought that guy was 60. Okay, I don't feel that bad. What do you think about this whole national anthem thing, Callum? I know obviously that's a different national
I
anthem,
don't
so
care.
that's another whole element.
Move on. Move on. I don't care. I'm not going to answer anything about it.
I'm going to hit you with a I don't care, move on later on with
yeah, that's fine.
With an AEW thing. The whole setup with the Vince McMahon thing gets you talking about, of course, the accusations and the lawsuits going on right now. And let's switch over to this thing. Ronda Rousey accusing Drew Gulak of inappropriate behavior. Now, from what I've seen, this is what it seems to break down. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys have come across anything else. She says that Drew Gulak had pulled the drawstring of her pants. And the implication that I got is that he was basically being like touchy and flirty and like trying to undo her pants, which is like, that's a big no-no. You do not do that. That's fucking awful. Drew Gulak put out a statement saying the equivalent of, I was shaking a bunch of people's hands backstage and I went to shake her hand and whatever, and I basically brushed up against that, and I've apologized for it since then, and it's just kind of one of these awkward things. Now, I've seen some funny reactions to this, of course, like people have put up the thing about the little clip from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Mac grabs Dee from the crotch to like just pick her up in the air, and people being like, oh, this is how Drew Gulak shakes hands and stuff. I, of course, was not there. Can't talk about it on that front, but I can totally see this being a scenario where both are right, where that might have been some weird just brush up type thing that in Ronda Rousey's point of view felt like it wasn't. And that the only way to really have any closure of that type of thing would be if there was somehow video footage of it. And then it would be like, you know, because there's some 1,000 instances like a day where you just like, you bump into somebody walking around in New York, for instance, and you're like, well, maybe they weren't paying attention. Maybe they bumped into me on purpose. Maybe they did this. Maybe what not. You never really know exactly. Now, of course, if it was some kind of intentional thing, awful on Drew Gulak. That sucks, and he's going to ruin his career that way. If it's a messed up thing that got interpreted the wrong way, then I think that's probably something we'll see not have any influence going forward and impact nothing whatsoever. But I do see that there's a lot of backlash for Ronda Rousey online too. A lot of people being like, oh, she's only tossing this out to try to sell her story more and to be relevant more. And then of course you get the opposite where it's like, why are you attacking the victim in here if she is a victim? I think I speak for both of you guys in saying the way that we always approach all these things is, well, if somebody's a potential victim, we got to try to, you know, put some validity behind them, but you don't necessarily just guilty before being proven innocent for everybody either. But you guys think anything's going to come out of this whatsoever?
I think if something would have come out of it, then it would have happened by now. I think that there was Brian Alvarez was saying on Wrestling Observer Radio that a lot of people on Tuesday just thought, oh yeah, Drew Gulak's just gone fired. He's going to get fired straight away, and he's not been fired yet, at least as far as we know. So I think they're just going to wait for it to blow over. Maybe they take his side of things, or just assume that it was just either accidental, or if Rousey's not going to make as huge a deal about it beyond what she said, then they think, okay, we could just probably wait for it to blow over. But if something happens, if like Drew Gulak continues to get like a negative reactions from people bring it up, then there's every possibility that he'll just maybe not be fired, but will be like just let go when his contract is up next time around. But yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, as until more stuff comes out or we're aware of more details of what exactly happened. Then at the moment it's just a he said she said thing, so can't really read too much into it. But yeah, I mean, I'd say the one thing I would say is that I can't imagine that Rousey is embellishing or lying about this, because it feels like that's a weird person to go after if you're lying about it. Like, okay, for some reason she has an issue with Drew Gulak of all people. Like, so I assume that what she is saying she believes to be true. Whether Drew Gulak's defense for it is valid or not, again, we don't know for certain. But But yeah, it does kind of feel like when he did write it, just from an outside perspective looking into his case, like, oh, I just went to like greet her, like that, I bowed in loyalty for her, and then my face just ended up in her crotch somehow. It's like, that's weird. That's like that kind of defense, like, oh, my hand just somehow managed to find her drawstring for when I was going for a handshake, even though her hand would be nowhere near where her drawstring is. That's kind of, it's a little, if it is an excuse, he's gone with the so unbelievable that it must be true approach.
First of all, I think that, as Callum said, Ronda is telling these events exactly as she believes it to be, especially when you consider the fact that when telling the story, she literally says, I can't remember his name. Wait a minute, it'll come to me. And then takes a minute before she finally says, oh, it's Drew Gulak. That's who it was. And I mean, for the most part, it seems like whatever this has blown over. You know what I mean? Like, it hasn't blown over to the public because the public is hearing about it for the first time. But, you know, she said she confronted him. She said he backpedaled. He said he apologized. I doubt anything more comes from this. But if you're asking me my opinion on the answer he gave, yeah, it's a little weird to be like, just shaking everybody's hand and it somehow happened. But, you know, whatever. Like, I wasn't there.
It'll be interesting to see if that just becomes a thing where people bombard all the, you know, anytime NXT is on and Drew Gulak's on, it's like fire Gulak and all. And I don't know. I guess we're going to have to see that going forward.
I don't know if there would be that much energy towards it. I mean, obviously, you know,
some people, that's what they like. That's their life, you know.
I think it'll blow over fairly quickly unless more comes out or some. Basically, you have to just wait for the potential. Not saying that this is absolutely going to happen, but if someone else was to come out and say something about Drew Gulak, then he's probably done for.
Then it's an issue.
Yeah,
but until that happens, and by the sounds of it, just needs to blown over a little bit. I think that he'll probably just be kept off TV for a couple of weeks, and then we'll come back at some point.
And to be clear, when I say then it's an issue, obviously it's super weird that happened to Ronda and sucks, but Ronda handled it perfectly, I think, at least according to her side of the story.
It was quite funny to then also see a lot of clips on like X and other platforms of like, because there was part of the storyline when Ronda came back was that she beat up Drew Gulak a lot on TV, and Charlotte beat up Drew Gulak a lot on TV in the build up to their match at WrestleMania.
Oh so yeah,
like, there was just a load of clips of like Ronda putting the armbar on Drew Gulak and Charlotte Flair beating the shit out of him around ringside. That was pretty funny.
That's kind of funny, and it was around that same time, so you know, maybe it did already work itself.
I also saw a story that was going around about there was a interview that Cody gave while he was still in the independent circuit about going to an Evolve show, because he was working an Evolve show at one point. I think it was Johnny Gargano's last Evolve show before he went to WWE, and then he just randomly puts out, oh, there was this guy here, I think his name was Drew Gulak, and he was a total dick. I
text Stephen Page every once in a while to say how much I don't like Drew Gulak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny too.
So he's clearly not like, as I say, I'm not saying that he's like who's malicious necessarily with this thing, but he clearly doesn't have a lot of friends in that regard, in certain places anyway.
Let's go with Let's go with ROH here. ROH Supercard of Honor predictions happening tonight. I don't really have an investment in this. I said before that like this year they had already completely killed off my interest in Ring of Honor throughout 2023, and this is what I plan on doing. I'll be completely transparent. I'm not signing up for Honor Club. It's not happening. You're not getting my money for it. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to do any kind of coverage for this whatsoever, but it seems like I'm going to have to at least put results up for eWrestling News. So I'm going to be checking to see what other people say happens, and if I can see some kind of stream or something, then maybe I'll have that on in the background while I'm going to pay way more attention to SmackDown and the Hall of Fame. Like, that's just not going to be something I pay any attention to, but we'll give our predictions.
Provisions allow, I'll take care of you watching the show.
Well, let's get into the 10 matches that are currently announced for this. One of them I actually didn't even see until I just looked at it now. So that's, I don't know when
the one that was just announced.
Must have been, yeah. So 3 matches are on the 0 hour. When does the 0 hour start? Is it at 7 or is it at 6?
Oh God.
Because even
at 7.
At like 4 o'clock in the morning, I was looking this up and I'm like, why do I still not have this information online? Why is it?
Hang on. Let's see. The
companies suck these days so much. Like, you have the option to have a million ways to say
7
that.
p.m. 7 p.m.
I had only seen like 7 p.m. as the start time, but so often when they say the start time for shows, it's just the show itself and not the pre-show. So that's why I'm like,
you are correct, sir. Hold on,
because it's like they'll be like, oh, WrestleMania starts at 7, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. But the pre-show starts at 5, and the same.
0 hour begins at 7. The 0 hour does begin at 7.
Okay, so at 7 o'clock, it's an hour before SmackDown, but still not something I'm going to be putting a whole lot of investment in, especially considering I look at this card and I'm like, not being in somebody who watches Ring of Honor weekly and all, nothing here is going to convince me to. Cole Carter and Griff Garrison are going up against the Spanish Announce Project and Helico and Serpentico. Just assuming it's Cole Carter and Griff Garrison. I saw that like the reason why this went down is because they just signed a piece of paper not knowing what it was. And it's like, we got a match. Well, okay.
Well, this has been one of the highly built matches on the card. They stole Serpentico's mask. And I actually really like the baby boys of Cole Carter and Griff Garrison. I think they're a lot of fun. I think Maria is great, especially considering she could just be up with the Kingdom and she's doing this instead to try to help the future. I would like to see them win, but I think babyfaces get it.
Yeah, I think the story with the whole stealing of Serpentico's mask and he's had to be wearing like a replacement one, I think the whole story's been built around Serpentico getting the mask back. I don't think that necessarily means they're going to win the match. It just means that he'll get the mask back at the end of it. So I think that they'll probably protect Carter and Garrison and have them still get the victory. But actually, if memory serves, they might have beaten them in a tag team match a month or so ago. And it's on the pre-show anyway, so it's not the most like it's not going to ruin them or ruin their chance of winning the tag titles if they lose this match. So yeah, maybe they'll just give Spanish Announce Project and give Serpentico a rare victory.
I dare say that like you should be protecting Carter and Garrison, and there's so much fun to be had in a match between them and the Kingdom for the tag titles. Like, Cole Carter's whole thing is that he's a simp for Maria, and I just want Mike Bennett to be like, that's my wife. Get away from my wife. I think there's a lot of fun we could have.
What's the story then with that? Like, I mean, I know the story that you just don't there, but what's the end product with that? Is it just that Maria dumps Cole Carter and Griff Garrison and goes back to the Kingdom? It's like, okay, well, Cole Carter and Griff Garrison are dead as a team then.
Well, I think you could tell a really good story of Maria, like, wanting to prove that she can be such an effective manager that she has her team go up against the Kingdom, and I don't think it needs to result in she turns on them to help the Kingdom win. Maybe the Kingdom can win, and she then says, well, my husband's a winner, I'm going to go with him. That doesn't have to be the end of the tag team either. It doesn't have, you don't have to
But the tag team is over if Maria's gone. Cause,
you don't think that they can...
No, because I don't see what you see in them. They're totally fine. Griff Garrison's got potential. Cole Carter's like dead in the water as soon as Maria
he
leaves
was dead in the water in NXT, and then they...
We might as well be dead in the water again. They can drag him out of the water and go take him back to NXT then at that point. But yeah, I don't think he's got any personality beyond it, and he's not a good enough wrestler to stand out from the crowd.
I hear you, but I still think there's at least a fun match you can build to there.
There's a reason why they had Griff Garrison have the match against Adam Copeland and not Cole Carter.
It's true.
Varsity athletes are going up against TBA. Good old TBA, Vacant's won a lot of titles. I don't know about TBA. You guys think it's going to be?
Mostly Machine Guns.
Yeah. Fuck, that's a really good idea. Especially if it's on the main card. And it's the premier
It's
athlete.
not. It's
pre-show.
not. It's on the pre-show.
Oh, really?
I
No,
think they'll main event the kickoff show, and it'll be like a big shot. They're out to wrestle in this match, and it'll just be like, oh my god, my Machine Guns are here in Ring of Honor and AEW, and it's like
They do the Carter and Garrison, and then they do the Mariah May match, and then they do the varsity athletes, and it's like leading into that. Yeah,
premier athletes, varsity athletes is a different thing.
that's what they're listed out on Wikipedia.
Well, they're wrong. Because it's Woods and Nice, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just see TVA, and I say it could just be a means of building the varsity athletes by having them just be a jobber tag team. That's totally like a potential option as well. I'm just thinking that what's the hot free agent tag team that's out there right now? Oh, it's mostly Machine Guns.
Because they're building it as they're in action. They're not building it as like who they're gonna face. So I'm gonna guess that it's just a squash. But I'd like to see the Machine Guns, of course.
I mean, if it's a Motor City Machine Guns, they win. Yeah, obviously. But if it's not, then I think any other tag team is probably just going to lose. But then again, I'm not paying attention. So I also have no idea who Momo Kogo is, who's going up against Mariah May.
Yeah, she's a Stardom wrestler. I guess the most notable thing that she's done in the US is that she was part of the inaugural tournament to crown the first New Japan Strong Women's Champion. She lost in the semi-final match to Willow Nightingale, and she's going to lose this match to Mariah May, because obviously Mariah May's the hot ticket for AEW and Ring of Honor side of things, so she'll win that one. But it should be a pretty decent match.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be one of the best matches. They're really trying to tout Ring of Honor as like a great place for women's wrestling, and I think you're going to see more Stardom crossover, specifically with ROH, and I'm excited.
And we got another Stardom showcase, 6-woman tag. Mai Sera, Mina Shirakawa, and Maika, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, against Tam Nakano, AZM, and Saya Kamitani. I've heard of 3 of these names, and I don't even know anything about them really. I've heard of like Shirakawa and Nakano and whatever. So flip a coin.
I'm gonna go with the team featuring Shirakawa, but Azumi and Tam Nakano are also quite important names. So I'm gonna stick with my guns. What about you, Callum?
Well, I mean, I'd say that this should be, hopefully with the 6 people involved, which are 6 of the best that Stardom have right now, this should be a really, really good match if they decide to utilize it as the showcase that it is. I think that it'd be interesting to see if Micah's team was to lose, because she is the world champion of Stardom. So if she was to lose, or their team was to lose, and someone was to step up to her to challenge her for the next show, that could be a route they're going. I think they've already, because I watched the Stardom show, they had the American Dream show they had a couple of days ago, or yesterday actually, when Micah defeated Megan Bayne to retain the title, and then she was stepped up to by Momo Watanabe. So I presume that's the next big show match they're coming up. So this one shouldn't have really any bearing on the world title match or any big show moving forward. I think it's just like get 6 of the top people together and have a really good match. I think they will go with the Mina Shirakawa one, because I think Mina Shirakawa is the most over to a Western audience of any of these 6. So I think they'll have her team get the victory, especially because she's associated with Mariah May. They actually did on the Stardom show. Toni Storm was on that Stardom show. She didn't wrestle, but she made an appearance after Mariah May's match, and she got into like a heated confrontation with Shirakawa. So I think they're going to do Shirakawa versus Toni Storm sometime relatively soon. And so yeah, they'll give her the victory in this one.
We also have, just going by the lineup that's like on Wikipedia rather than like any kind of match order that I think is going to necessarily happen. But Kyle Fletcher, I am assuming successfully defending the ROH World Television title against Lee Johnson.
I see no reason to argue.
Yeah, Carl Fletcher will retain here. But yeah, I don't really get why Lee Johnson gets as prominently featured on Ring of Honor every week that he does. Like, he's totally fine, but I've never seen anything special in him, so.
Johnny TV against Dalton Castle, fight without honor, without the boys involved, since they are fired. We'll talk about that.
Fight without the boys is what it is. Should be a very fun match. Obviously, they're two tremendously creative individuals. Whatever good Morrison has left should, always provide something special. I'm looking forward to it. It's got a weird cloud over it now, but I'm looking forward to it, and I think Castle wins.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain the Castle will win this one because he's basically been taking a lot of L's in this feud. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because, surprisingly enough, like fight without honor matches, there's usually at least one fight without honor match on every one of these shows since Tony Khan took over the booking of it, and they're usually some of the best matches on each one. Like last on the final battle, it was the Josh Woods versus
BCC, right?
Oh no, that was no. Oh, I guess that did become a fight without honor, but it was Tony Nese versus. I know that was technically an IQuip.
Oh, that was an IQuip match, Tony Nese.
Yeah, but it was kind of a fight without honor. Like basically, the more hardcore matches are usually pretty good on these shows.
Was it Death Before Dishonor when they did the Dark Order against the Righteous?
Yeah, and that was an awesome match. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so yeah, if this one follows in that same vein, and I'm sure they will do a lot of creative stuff. I assume there's going to be some parkour in it as well. So I wonder if like Dalton Castle will have someone to kind of be an equalizer for Ty Valkyrie getting involved in this, but we'll see. But I assume the Castle's going to win.
I'm about 50-50 from the little bit that I know. It just kind of seems like if Johnny TV's gotten the edge, then Dalton Castle wins, but either way, I'm not invested, so it doesn't matter. The ROH World Tag titles are on the line. United Kingdom, I am assuming, are successfully retaining over
hold
Infantry.
On. Stop. What's their name?
What did I say?
United Kingdom.
Oh, the Undisputed Kingdom. Yeah, they're going to beat the Infantry, right? I can't imagine that's going to go the other way.
Yeah, they'll most likely retain. I mean, the whole story of building this up is that they had a 10-minute draw on the last episode of Ring of Honor TV, and so the Infantry got getting a title shot. The Infantry have been getting a bit more of a feature on AEW by being involved in that tag team tournament, but I don't imagine they're going to beat Taven and Bennett here.
Let me put it to you like this. If the Infantry wins here, Adam Cole might as well come out and just be like, yep, storyline's over. Moving on. Because what does the Undisputed Kingdom have outside of Roddy? And if you just want to do Roddy and Cole, that's fine by me. But you don't need all the other guys if they lose here. And I don't think they're going to.
Who do you think's winning the ROH Women's World TV title? The tournament final. It's Billy Starks and Queen Aminata.
Billy Starks.
I think they're going to give it to Queen Aminata.
This title was made for Billy Starks. I will be very upset if you didn't have her beat Athena, created this whole thing, and then it's still just
That's the story. The story is that she always comes up short until she beats Athena for the title.
By the way, she wrestled today at Tokyo Joshi Pro, and Athena was there, and Athena got physical, and Billy Starks wrestled the full match. And I'm going, I wonder if TK is going to kind of slow this down a little bit, where, when you look at certain things like Anthony Henry, who, by the way, will be coming back to Ring of Honor and AEW, getting released after getting injured on an independent show. I wonder if he's going to be way more selective.
Selective of what?
Of just letting his talent work elsewhere.
Oh. I mean, he should.
I don't think he will, because one of the draws of going to AEW is that you can also do some independent shows if you're not necessarily needed for particular points for AEW or Ring of Honor.
That's true, but I think, to me at least, and maybe I'm just overhyping this, I think Billy's at a point now where if you lost Billy for whatever reason, that'd be a huge blow to ROH, and I'd kind of protect that.
I think that more harmful is that she doesn't get as much development because she's only working one show.
That's fair. Yes, you're correct.
So I would have her continue to do independent shows. Yes, she'd take the risk that she might get injured at some point doing that, but she can get injured. She can get injured in any show doing a headlock that goes slightly wrong. Like, that's just what wrestling is.
What do either of you guys think Hikaru Shida is going to beat Athena? Because I don't.
No, I think Athena's going to retain.
I'd be pretty disappointed.
But I'm looking forward to the match. I mean, the whole story is being built around the fact that the last time these two fought, Hikaru Shida beat Athena, and Athena is nervous about going into this one. She's looking a bit more fragile than she has in the past. But I think that Athena gets the victory here. As I say, I still think the long-term story is to have Billie Starkz eventually beat Athena for the title. So you can't have Athena lose here for that to happen.
Then we got Eddie Kingston defending the ROH World title since he does not have the Continental Crown anymore. It's just separate against Mark Briscoe. And from not paying attention to it, I just assume Mark Briscoe's winning it.
You keep saying not paying attention to it. Your ideas wouldn't change much if you did, because the entire build to this match has been Eddie Kingston lost to Okada and then was like, yeah, by the way, Supercard's coming up, and Mark Briscoe, you never got your shot. I want to give you your shot in the birthplace of ROH. I think Briscoe should win, and then I know he's got a match at Dynasty, so forget what I'm about to say already, but I think he should kind of be a guy who helps anchor Ring of Honor in the way that Athena has, because there's more association with the Briscoes and ROH. You know, I think that would be really helpful to the brand, because I'm still thinking, how do we get this brand to be a little more, if not must see, at least like want to see every week?
I think this is going to be a very good match to close the show. I think the whole story they're telling with Briscoe is that it was basically 11 years to the day that Jay Briscoe won his first world title for Ring of Honor. They're going to do that here, get the victory for him, gets to celebrate with his family around him. Like, actually, they'll pour out the locker room as well to celebrate with him, have Kingston show him a lot of respect, and because they'll be teaming up at Dynasty anyway as part of this. Yeah, and I think that Kingston's losing his other title very soon as well to as I think Gabe Kidd is winning the New Japan Strong title at some point and taking it back to New Japan. So, but yeah, they're just telling the story now of Kingston having everything and then just piece by piece losing it. Which, as I say, will just returning back to kind of an underdog status, and he'll be clawing his way from underneath again. But yeah, I think having Mark Briscoe be the world champion is a good step forward for the promotion. As I say, he's a really top babyface to hold it, and it'll be, I'm sure they will eventually build up a top heel to take the title off of him. I don't know who that necessarily will be, but I'll wait until after Briscoe's actually won the title before I start booking or fantasy booking who would be the next person to take it off of him.
All right, well, that's Ring of Honor. That's happening tonight. Remember, if anybody is super interested in that, starts at 7 for the 0 hour rather than 8 for anybody who wants to check out EWN for that. I'll have up whatever I decide to put up. I don't know what it'll be. Let's talk about these releases from AEW. Now, the AEW had released Stu Grayson, Dasha Gonzalez, The Boys, the Tate Brothers, Anthony Henry, a little asterisk on that one, Parker Boudreaux, Gravity, Slim J, Jose the Assistant, and Jora Johl. Now, Anthony Henry's been rehired? What's the situation with that?
He hasn't technically been rehired yet. They basically said that as soon as he's recovered from his injury, he can go back to working for Ring of Honor.
And AEW.
And AEW, yeah.
So they're firing him when they can't use him, and then saying once
what happened was
that's kind of
what happened was Tony got too much shit for firing him while he was hurt. So Tony reconsidered. Now I think because these guys, when they got fired, Slim J put out a really heartbreaking tweet about how he had wanted to
kind of get his family in a better place, and he wasn't able to do that. Anthony Henry flat out tweeted, "Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna pursue wrestling after this." And I think the decision was made, at least with Henry, that once he's cleared, he can come back, because the Workhorsemen are a strong team. They are a good team, and Anthony Henry is a good talent. Why would you want to lose him? For that matter, that's not to say that these other talents aren't, but Anthony Henry and JD Drake as a team, I think, can provide a lot of value for both AEW and ROH. And I think that's the mindset that Tony was in when he decided to say, once he's cleared, we will welcome him back.
None of these names particularly surprise me. And I'm actually more surprised that more names aren't on the list, because there are a lot of people that are just filler. And I'm curious how these contracts work. We've never really been told what people get paid and what people, like, the different tier structures and stuff are, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like if you've got people that you're not paying too much and you got them on retainer and they're signed to some kind of a contract and they're just on the enhancement talent side of things, maybe not necessarily even have them on a contract and just pay them per show.
Yeah, I think that they were doing that, but I think this is different. I think anyone who was released was probably on some level of a guarantee. And like, look, it's shitty, and it came specifically on a day where I don't think it made the promotion look super favorable. Now, yes, like these were eventually going to come, in the sense that, like, as nice as it is that Tony was trying not to, hired Mercedes, hired Okada, openly said he wanted to play around with the budget a little bit more. But I think some of these names are surprising. Like, Dasha was your regular ring announcer every Saturday night. I was very surprised that they cut her. Jose the assistant just kind of strikes another blow for LFI, of whatever they're going to do with that faction. Parker was an interesting thing, because like 12 hours before, they had him go out and be like, yeah, no, I'm still with AEW. I'm just doing AAA on the side to get more experience. So there was a couple of surprises for me with some of these. And Stu Grayson, it's just like, man, why let this guy go twice? He's great. I don't know why, like, you couldn't just put him and Uno in a tag team situation.
So I'm not particularly surprised by any of the names. As I say, it's still shitty when anyone gets released, and so they shouldn't be treated any more favour than like the WWE approach of things. I guess the one thing that's slightly different is that they don't have any non-competes. They've been told that they're free agents immediately. They can sign with whoever they want, like, as soon as they were released. But yeah, in terms of just like, if they are going to be making some budget changes, we don't know if there's going to be any more that are coming down the pipeline. This is just the start of a process of thinning out the roster. I think most people, if they're being just super honest, is that AEW's roster is too bloated. I know they've got Ring of Honor as well, and they should be kind of like separating them out a little bit more between the two of them. But I think either way, they've got too many people for those kind of shows. If they're not utilising people like Slim J or Jora Johl that often, then yeah, I guess that there is kind of a reason to cut them. But as I say, it's not nice to see, but it's somewhat understandable those people are going. The Dasha one is the one that probably is the most surprising out of all of them, but I imagine this is probably because they want to put more of a spotlight on Lexi Nair, because she's been doing really good work in Ring of Honor, and I presume they're going to move her on to being a more prominent fixture on the AEW side of things as well.
All right, so let's talk about the CM Punk thing.
Actually, can we talk about just out the releases? There was one thing about the boys or the Tate brothers. About Tony Khan specifically said on the Ring of Honor's Supercard like pre-call, where like the call beforehand, so that they were specifically released due to no showing events, and then they refuted that point. But then they've also been going on this massive Twitter spree of just basically liking and saying that they're the only reason the Dalton Castle ever got over. It's just like, yeah, that's sounds a bit like sour grapes to me from their side of things.
If you don't show up to work, you get fired. It's like it's the quickest way. One of the quickest ways to get fired is to not do the job you get paid to do. And were you going to say, Rob?
Yeah, no, I said that was surprising because he was very blunt about it. He was just like, "Yep," and these are all different situations, and I fired the boys because they didn't show up for work, and that's not okay. And then I think they just recently put something out, but I haven't checked it as of yet. But yeah, they don't seem to be too happy with the fact that TK was basically like, "Oh well, they're fired."
So yeah, let's talk about the CM Punk thing. Now, there's so much that we could talk about here that this could go on for a 2-hour podcast, and we're already at an hour 15. So we're going to have to hold some of those opinions back and not break down every little thing and start getting into like, what did Pat McAfee say in his thing and all. But his interview, with Ariel Helwani has been, of course, a big talking point for this week because Punk was asked many different questions about the transition from going and joining AEW, eventually leaving AEW, coming back to WWE. I've said before, across the board, there's a lot of things about CM Punk that I agree and disagree with. And I think that, like, there's probably never going to be a scenario where I'm 100% on his side, just because I don't think that anybody really has, like, they're not infallible. And, people, I can support friends of mine and be like, but you're dead wrong. Or I can, even myself, I could be like, in retrospect, I was wrong about that or something. But what I liked about this interview was I felt like it came across like somebody being able to say whatever they were able to say and being honest from their perspective in like a transparent fashion. From what I keep saying, I really want people to just say shit. And I know that like there's an NDA. He wasn't able to talk primarily about the brawl out situation, but he did get into some of the other things. And I think that there's an implication, of course, about a lot of other things too that he didn't really specifically say, but he danced around it in a way that you can kind of draw some parallels and stuff. He said so much that, again, we're not going to break down everything that he said, but it's just very much ignited a whole tribalism thing where some people are militantly like, fuck that guy. He is such a shit stirrer and I hate everything he said. And he's only saying this because now he's in WWE and he's lying and he's a cancer to the locker room, and Tony Khan's a saint. And then there's people that are like, see, everything that he said is entirely true, and that's the worst company that's ever existed, and Tony Khan's the devil, and everybody in the company, even if he's not mentioning their names, they're all children instead of the ones that he kind of says are children. I would put it out there like this. If you're the type of person who says it's 100% one way or another, there's no point in talking about it. Because you made your decision up the same way you do about like religion or you do about like politics, If you're, very hardcore Democrat, Republican, and you can't see any flaws in your candidate because they just happen to be on that side, well, you're a lost cause. But I liked how candid he was. And I like that we have, at least from his perspective of what he said, whether or not there are truths to that are 100% true, whether or not it's just his point of view, I feel like I have a better understanding of the situation now than before. And that's the type of transparency that I want. So I liked this a lot. I didn't watch the whole Ariel Helwani episode because I don't care about the other topics, but I watched the Punk's whole thing. And I came out of that feeling like, okay, some of the things he said make a lot of sense. Some of it are just his perspective. And some of it, I don't know. But I do think that the response from Edge coming out at the beginning of AEW's Dynamite episode, that struck me as very, like, that's pitiful, kind of. And I know if he's just coming out there and saying something, if he's, purely on his own, then he's defending his point of view, and that's cool. So I'm not going to ding him on that. But to me, that struck me as like, we have to hit back and get the CM Punk thing. And I came out of this whole situation feeling like, yeah, Punk's a shit star, and he knows what he's doing, and he is like, he clearly has his enemies, and he has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So he is not a saint in this at all. But I can see his perspective for a lot of things too.
I guess I'll go next on my perspective on this. I think CM Punk is very natural in believing certain things or having his perspective on stuff that I think that he knows deep down isn't true. And I'm not necessarily saying that everything he says in this interview is untrue, because a lot of it is. And I think he is exposing a lot of like truths that a lot of hardcore AEW fans don't want to hear, which is probably a lot of truth about maybe Tony Khan is a little bit weak-willed as a boss, or he wants to kind of have a bit more of a fun atmosphere than take a lot of accountability things. I think that Tony Khan's overall handling of the CM Punk situation post Brawl Out was very poor. Like, he didn't try and get things squashed immediately. He went with a approach of trying to keep people away from each other, which was never ever going to work, and it proved not to work. But a large part of the reason why that didn't work is because CM Punk is an asshole, and he admits the fact. I'm not saying anything that he wouldn't say about himself. He admits the fact that he can be a bit of a dick, and I imagine this was part of him being as well. I think some of the things that he said make a lot of sense, as Tony said. I think that a lot of stuff could be either his perspective on stuff, which is honest, at least in his opinion, but may not necessarily be right. I don't think that AEW is like in the is not a quote unquote real business. They are making like good money. They're startup companies. Of course, they're not profitable, because no startup company is ever profitable in their first few years. They'll get a good television deal most likely, and then they will be profitable down the road. And most companies don't operate on like just by going by the house. And he said some things that are absolutely asinine, like the guaranteed contracts thing, and saying that guaranteed contracts ruin wrestling. I mean, who the fuck does he think he is? He's not like someone from the like 1970s and 1980s that he's never had to draw a house in his life. Yeah, he's super popular and he does draw houses, but he's always gotten a guaranteed paycheck, where he's been working ever since he started working for WWE and then to AEW and then back to WWE, unless for some reason he's decided that he believes that point so strongly that he's only working on a contract that allows him to that he only gets paid if he draws a good number to a show or not. But so yeah, there are certain things that I think he said were pretty dumb. I think that he didn't like go completely like go gung ho against AEW. He said some things about Hangman Page. He said some things about Colt Cabana. Said some things not anything like explicitly about the Bucks, but there were things that were kind of like read between the lines. This is probably about the Bucks. Said things about Tony Khan, makes him appear that he's like not very good at what his quote unquote job is supposed to be, which is promoting. And there is some truth in that as well. I don't think the company is very good at promoting shows. I don't think they're very good at advertising their shows, and that's why they do draw low numbers. I think Tony Khan in particular relies on Twitter too much. But I think most people are aware of that point. But yeah, certain things that he said about like, oh, I thought I was doing the responsible thing by choking out Jack Perry. It's like, okay, if that's what you think is responsible, rather than just like leaving it alone.
It's hard to be like, because that's a good thing to bring up, because it's like, it's very specific to be like, wow, this Jack Perry situation sounds like I'm entirely on your side, and then you say that and you're like, God damn it, because it sounds like, if he said what he said about like like 6 different people like Shivani and all said no, and Jack Perry said shove it up your ass or whatever, and then Punk got involved, you're like, yeah, fuck this Jack Perry guy for being like that. And then you're like, but don't choke up, goddamn man.
But it's also like there's some like things that he's willing to say, certain things that he won't be willing to say or won't be asked about. So like he obviously brings up that the whole Jack Perry story, and I can totally believe what he said about the Jack Perry situation, about him going up to multiple people and them all saying no about the rental. I don't believe what he said about like he was just trying to protect their relationship with this rental company, because it's not like AEW can't find another rental company if that's the case, and then or Tony Khan could just pay off whatever damage is done to the car. And then but then it's more about the case of, well, why did everyone start figuring out that story was out there, like who leaked that story? You can totally understand, because like Punk, by all accounts, his people were very good at leaking stories out to people and like saying things that they need to be said. And then the whole like Samoa Joe comes out of his telling of what happened at All In as like the top guy. Like no wonder they gave him the world title, because he just feels like, okay, he's the guy who's just gonna say fuck this. Like,
I do. Yeah. I'll interject here and say that is the one element of the story that no matter who's telling it, that's what happened. Joe stepped in and said, "Stop,
knock it all off."
Yeah. Okay, let's go out and have a great match. And just like Punk's last match in AEW was like arguably the best match on All In. So, I think that I think that, as I say, there's some inconvenient truths that Punk said on this podcast, which I think you can at least see signs of in AEWs, and certain things feels like a mixture of bitterness and just his inflated sense of what happened in these instances. And then also the one thing that I have difficulty with is with the Ariel Helwani side of it as well, because Ariel Helwani's a WWE stooge. That's like, I think it's pretty much undeniable at this point. He basically does whatever Nick Khan tells him. And I think that, I mean, that was as showcaseable than anything in that interview that he did with Rhea Ripley, where after they decided to do an angle with Becky Lynch interrupting the show, he then said, like, tongue-in-cheek about how, I feared for my life during that incident. It's like, okay, so you're just mocking Tony Khan. Yeah. Because he just doesn't so like... cheeky. Like, Ariel Helwani, well, yeah, he's cheeky, but he's also, like, he's completely unimpartial. Well, I mean, like,
him and Tony don't like each other. There was the whole snowman comment on Twitter. Like, they don't like each other.
Because Ariel Helwani did the right thing by focusing the conversation on AEW, because that is where he's going to get a load of clicks. So I have no issue with him focusing on AEW. But he seems to ask CM Punk about certain things, but didn't ask a question about the promo that he cut when he returned after his first injury, where he just sat in the ring and like called out Hangman Page, called him a coward when he knew that Hangman Page wasn't going to come out. Like, didn't ask him about any of those questions. Like, is that CM Punk being super unprofessional when he was saying that there's loads of other people in that company that's unprofessional? So I'd say, notwithstanding some of the stuff is probably accurate, or at least has some validity to it, but it's also laid in like at least a heavy layer of CM Punk's hypocrisy and just inflated sense of self-worth, I think.
And here's the part where I step in and say that I'm more in the middle of these two guys, at least. Obviously, I'm a big CM Punk fan. I've always maintained my personal feeling that the initial promo from Hangman was one of the weirdest things ever in AEW, because it just came up out of nowhere, and he did seem really pissed, and it was just never the same after that. As far as the all in stuff, I'm sure it's skewed to make himself look like the babyface. But I can see him just going, man, why did you do that? And then Jack Perry's like, you basically come at me, bro. And then,
And Punk goes, okay.
because there's a reason, clearly, even though he's doing New Japan now, there's a reason why he's been off of TV for, 7 months? Maybe? I'm sure that there might be a little bit of damn, I'm really pissed off that you did that. And
that's absolutely the reason why he's not on TV, is because he is pissed. Tony Khan is almost certainly royally pissed off at Jack Perry for what happened.
As far as the comments regarding drawing houses and stuff like that, yes, I understand what everybody's saying when they say, well, Punk never had to do that. But I think Punk lives in this world where he's just like, I want to be Harley Race. I want to be Brett. But Brett is an interesting example because depending on who you ask, Brett didn't do a lot of insane business. But I think he wants it to be that case scenario where it's like, no, we're trying to move tickets here. And yeah, I do think personally AEW could probably benefit from some of that, but it's just a clash of philosophies. Like AEW just wants to be the wow, what a fun time. There's an alternative, and that's fine. And I think Punk's where he wants to be now. Maybe that's where he wanted to be from the beginning. Maybe he just was trying to do the whole alternative thing so that he didn't feel like he was selling out a bit. I don't know. But
kind of gave me the impression that he flat out says after All In that he wanted to leave and then realized that wasn't going to be the case. So he tried to, stick around and make something work, even though he didn't think that it was going to. And also it's like, you were in there not too long and you wanted to leave and go to WWE. And then in the meantime, within that, he visits WWE backstage and stuff. It does kind of give off a little bit of a feel that maybe he just wanted to go back to WWE.
I definitely look, I think if you get a vibe that certain people don't like you, and for example, I think I can fully believe that he said, hey, Tony, it's not going to work. Just let me go. They don't want me here. And I understand why Tony didn't let him go. And I'm not going to fucking let you go. So you can just go back to WWE and I lose out on all my investment. I completely agree with that. But at the end of the day, hey, it didn't work because from a fan perspective and, internally, it was just like, we don't like this dude anymore. We don't like this. You know what I mean? So shit happens in that regard. I enjoyed hearing the story. I do wish more people were that candid. However, I will say shout out to Tony Schiavone, who's just like, yeah, he mentioned my name, so fucking what? Move on. Because that's also a great response, because that's also an option that you can do. And honestly, I hope we'd never have to talk about this again. That won't be the case.
No, absolutely
but I would like to never talk about this again.
And we've said before, the tribalism thing is exhausting and it's not really all that helpful because, man, it's so fun when these companies and these people can take shots at each other and have fun with it. But when it ends up being just, let's spark Twitter debates. Then it's like, I don't want to fucking deal with that. I like my my little jabs here and there that I hear, and you poke fun at something or whatever, but I don't want to get into these rabid fucking fans online that send death threats to people because they're like, you fucking, what do you mean you like NXT level up or something? And it's like, oh my god, who cares? But
I will shout out Cody Rhodes, who did an interview with Ariel, and Ariel tried to, get the clicks again and say, hey, what'd you think about these comments by Punk? And he was like, hey, that's his experience. That is not mine. He's always maintained, I love Kenny, love Matt, love Nick. Had a great experience there, and I'm proud of what I did, and that's just never going to be my experience.
I didn't check out his interview, or most of these other ones. I didn't watch the Rhea Ripley one at all. But most of the stuff that's come out about this whole the interviews, and then people mention AEW, and then it becomes sparking this and back and forth. And then there's like the Dax Harwood thing, which then he had to come out and say like, hey, this is kind of implying that I'm talking about Punk, but I'm not. I'm really just sort of defending that it's good that I get to be like wrestling and
but you said
sport,
it,
whatever.
Like, look,
but it comes across like that because it does kind of give off the vibe of like, man, AEW is great. I get to make a paycheck and not wrestle all that much. And then you're like, he didn't really say that, but then again,
Triple H just actually earlier today on the Pat McAfee show, he was asked about recruiting, and he said something like, yeah, well, when I see people who are trying to make it here and then who don't get here, and then they go out and say, oh, but I'm so glad that the schedule is lighter, and then he's like, well, then I'm glad I didn't take you because you don't want to be here, which is a dig at someone, I'm sure, but...
And that's like... That makes sense, and at the same time also comes off in a way that you could be offended by that too. Like, that's like, it's a different philosophy type of thing. And I mean, we've all been in situations where you've said something that is not at all meant to be like a negative, and somebody takes it like that just because it's triggered something in them. And you know, you could be like, oh man, I really love orange juice, and people are like, the fuck you mean you hate apple juice? And you're like, I didn't say that. Okay, you know, but
oh come on, it's obvious what he was fucking saying with that remark.
But that's like, he's not wrong if that's his perspective either too, to be like, oh, if that's how your perspective is of what you want for your job, then you're lazy and I don't want you. Then it's like, well, all right, you're the boss, and if that's a real core characteristic of what you value that over a lot of other things, then I could totally see him having that kind of point of view.
Well, I hope he's willing to lose out on loads of free agents then, because that's a really fucking stupid thing to say.
On the flip side,
I don't want people here that are willing to work 4 or 5 more days and get paid less for it. Fuck you.
Well, that's also like, yeah, you'd be stupid not to, because like, you know, if Mercedes is making millions of dollars, has her own locker room, doesn't have to work almost at all,
right,
and is treated like a star, it's like, well, you'd be a fucking moron not to take that deal. Like, you know,
exactly. So why would you put out any message out there which suggests that, like, if you're willing to grind, if you're willing to work 300 days a year, be away from your families for most days of the week, and be on a plane for
because right now they're on the come up.
Yeah, I'd say they're on the come up right now. And you know, a hot streak in a wrestling promotion usually lasts about like 3 to 5 years, and then it dies down.
I would say 2 years. But
well, yeah, even that.
But we have a quick turnaround this time with like, everybody wanted to go to WWE when it was just WWE and NXT. Then everybody wanted to go to AEW when that was the new company. Then people are starting to switch back and forth now. Like,
well, I say, but WWE's on the carpet, it's having like this big hot streak, and it's like drawing massive shows, and it's doing all this stuff that's successful. Like, it can kind of do no wrong at the moment, and yet loads of free agents still won't sign with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a case of, wow, so even like kind of at the peak of your powers that you are right now, you still can't get like some of the top free agents available to come to work for you. So maybe you kind of got to change your philosophy a little bit. You can't just take the idea of like, well, we have WrestleMania and we're the industry leader and we're the biggest name in town. No, maybe you need to start, you know, cutting back a few dates and start paying people more, because that's how you're actually going to get free agents these days.
It'll be interesting to see how the TV deal for AEW shakes out, and how them increasing their schedule in regards to pay-per-views shakes out. And if people start to feel like, well, no, I don't feel like it's less of a thing.
I know it's not that though. It's the house shows.
But WWE's house shows have trimmed down considerably from what they used to be.
Significantly less.
And AEW still doesn't really do them. Like, they tend to do like, how many like AEW house shows do they do? Like little tours. They do every couple months or something, right? Like
they do like a couple a year, really.
Yeah.
Like maybe like a handful a year. But it's just like, yeah, I mean, AEW they have free TV shows, and I say, like, I assume they had really certain people that appear on those particular TV shows some of them will appear on like both shows a week, and Rampage's film is recorded at the same time as Dynamite typically anyway. So So realistically, they have to go to, on a pay-per-view week, 3 shows a week for some people. Not all of them, for some people. WWE, I think they do 4 or 5 shows a week. Again, it's depending on like who's on what show. They obviously have a hard brand split between the 3 main shows they do, so there's only certain people need to appear on certain ones, and obviously most of NXT's gets done in like Full Sail anyway. Not Full Sail, to wherever their performance center is. Yeah, so they don't have to travel anywhere beyond like if I know NXT do certain house shows as well and live events, but yeah, I think it's just the touring schedule is still significantly harder in WWE. And I'm not saying they need to change that necessarily, but I'm saying that if you want to have that hard schedule, you need to pay certain people more for those appearances. I think that WWE still has, and those comments by Triple H, they have an air of arrogance about them. That like they think that because you need to be able to grind to do it. It's like, well, some people have different priorities than that, and by judging by the 3 latest like super big signings that have all gone to AEW in Ospreay, Okada, and Monet, it's a case of, well, clearly a lot of the top people feel that way, and if they're going to get it from AEW, then you need to be able to offer something similar. Or
I feel like God,
yeah, or at least to counteract it, because people like, as I say, I think that Ospreay was always going to go to AEW because of the scheduling thing and the fact that he can still live in the UK, which I don't think WWE were ever going to offer him. But my kind of question to that is, why not? WWE could have offered him that.
I feel like there's very much this core, like, here's my big gotcha debate between the two companies that may change sooner rather than later, but maybe is going to be just like how they just keep doing things going forward. But they very much like their sticking points, and it's WWE looks at like fans will, look at this too, and the people signing too we'll see like AEW, and it'll be like, this is the wrestling show. Don't you want to go here and have the big paycheck that Tony Khan's willing to pay, unless you're, I guess, like Slim J and you can't even like get anything. If you're a big enough name, Tony Khan's willing to pay you a butt ton of money, and you don't work as often, and you get to have more creative freedom, and you get to be with, the pro wrestling side of things. We're the wrestlers show. And then the WWE retort tends to be, and that doesn't matter at all because we're sports entertainment that is at a level that you guys aren't. And if you want to be a star, you go here. And seems like that's just going to be how they continue to do things going forward. So it's like certain people are going to prioritize one or the other depending on their individual situations. But a guy like a Punk, back in the day, I think if you're talking CM Punk from like WWE's ECW, that guy strikes me as way more of an AEW guy.
See, but the more time goes on, the more I think the answer is just no. He wanted to be the top guy, and you can't be the top guy unless you're doing WrestleManias. Like, I think it all just boils down to you wanted to do Mania, which, by the way, is perfectly fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I do think it's funny that now that I think about it, Triple H's comments kind of echo what Punk had said about, because when talking about Jack Perry, he had made a comment like, oh, I didn't know that he was apparently supposed to go on vacation, and I was telling him to do this angle on the Wednesday show instead, and oh, boo-hoo, so you had to go to a second show. You only work once a week. That was something he had said about Jack Perry. So, maybe that's, for some reason, a weird bragging point for them right now. It's like, yeah, we work more, which isn't a bragging point for most in the year 2024.
No, I mean, that, like, the work environment's changing a lot too, where,
like, just in general, like, fuck wrestling. Like
Yeah,
in general.
Just, I like Bernie Sanders' idea. I'll say that about the shortening the work week and all. But this is a shit show as far as like sparking those types of fans that will just be rabid one way or another. And in some ways that's fun to watch everybody go crazy. And in other ways I'm like, man, it's taken away from WrestleMania week. And I don't like that. But this has been a crazy week. So like outside of just that alone, there's so many interviews, there's so many documentaries and shows and podcasts, and fucking Cody Rhodes' tour bus caught fire. So I have this labeled on the hot tags as just the madness of WWE's WrestleMania week. What other random topics do you guys want to toss out there from whatever the hell's been going on that, like, maybe you've caught attention you thought was interesting or something?
The Bray Wyatt documentary was great. Really sad.
Haven't seen it yet, but I saw a clip from TikTok that I thought was good.
I mean, like, yeah, I ended up full tears when they start talking about his passing and stuff like that. The other stuff outside of that was, interesting to learn. And there's obviously the Bo Dallas return tease that came at the end of it, that he would still be portraying Uncle Howdy, apparently. That was a lot of fun. There's some fun stuff, like Shayna Baszler did Bloodsport, as was expected. She wrestled Masha Slamovich. Zoe Stark was in her corner. Jordan Grace was in Masha's. Charlie Dempsey wrestled at Bloodsport. He beat Matt Mikowski. Nick Khan was pictured at Bloodsport with Brett Lauderdale of GCW. Just a lot of fun, exciting things happening, in addition to all of the cattiness that appears to continue on.
Any noteworthy stuff you came across, Callum?
Not particularly. I mean, kind of like outside of the Stardom show I watched yesterday, I haven't really been watching any wrestling outside of like my typical watching AEW midweek.
Yeah, I think that's also, it has completely gotten to the point, I would say, spanning the whole fandom, where it's like, just watch the things you want to watch. I think we've lived in this environment long enough that people feel comfortable now just watching whatever they feel compelled to see and not like checking out every little thing. Like, for example, I haven't checked out every little thing. I checked out Bloodsport because that's a unique show that I like seeing. I checked out a little bit of the Tokyo Joshi Pro show today because of the Billy Starks Athena thing. But I haven't, there's been a couple of GCW shows I haven't seen yet. I don't know if I will see. But I think that's okay. I think we're really in a weird place where wrestling, there's something for everyone. And it'll always be piggybacking off of Mania, don't get me wrong. But it's a really exciting weekend for anyone who even remotely cares.
There's tons of stories that I'm even seeing since we started this, like Undertaker might induct Muhammad Ali. What the hell? Where's the connection there? That seems odd.
No comment.
Now
Weird.
we know, of course, that they just 2 days ago or whatever were like, oh yeah, by the way, that Liam Ivia thing is true indeed. So they waited until the last minute for that for some reason.
I guess because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
I mean, Undertaker's the best pure striker in WWE history, so maybe that's the reason why they're doing it.
That's what it is. Thank you.
What's this thing about Shawn Michaels talking about people from AEW that he likes?
Yeah, okay, so that's
Did
what I
he
was
say
gonna
any names?
before. This is the absolute antithesis of the Triple H thing, because Shawn Michaels was asked during a press conference, hey, is there anyone at AEW that you would welcome into NXT? And he was like, yeah, I would take about anybody because there's a lot of great talent there, and it doesn't matter whether it's, AEW, Japan, TNA, or around the globe. I would like to work with everybody.
That's a good answer. He didn't name anybody specific, though?
No, he didn't name anybody specific because he was like, I'm not going to name anyone because I don't know what their situation is. And I could get into trouble. But he's like, there's a lot of guys that used to be in NXT there that I love, that I would love to work with again.
And I was just like, good for Sean. Sean just seems like he's in such a happy place in his old age.
Seems like The Rock's done some interviews where he's just been like, oh, Cody's a great guy.
Yeah, he did the interview with Fox News where he was like, Cody's a great guy. He also kind of now, and I'm pissed off he's doing this before Mania, but he's kind of taking credit. He's like, yeah, in January, I called up Nick Khan and was like, let's give the people what they want.
It's a very revisionist history sounding answer, right?
And I'm like, okay, like, look, even if that's 100% true, wait until after you beat the fuck out of him. Like, you know what I mean? Because he's just like, Cody's such a great guy and he's a great leader. And to be a great leader, you got to pivot. And, it's true that Cody was like, hey, man, I totally get it. And I'm behind you. But I said, let's give the people what they want, because why would we change the story? And I'm like, okay. Like, okay.
Man, nothing pisses me off more than when credit's not given where it's due. And
if you ask me, do I want that or do I want Punk just telling his very biased side of the situation? I'll take Punk, just in terms of the entertainment value.
I mean, it comes off as The Rock doing the bias thing.
I mean, I find it funny because like The Rock's seemingly doing like the whole just talking to the media and being like, "Oh, I'm playing the character of The Rock and doing all this stuff, and I'm the heel in this feud." Whereas Cody's going on to like Ariel Helwani and says like, "Oh, I legitimately don't like The Rock," and he's actually just trying to stay kayfabe and building this matchup.
And I prefer that. I prefer that.
Well, in this role, I play The Rock, and The Rock is like a bad guy, and he came into like that's what the kind of feeling that I'm getting from it.
That's the feeling I've gotten from him from the beginning of this. And that's the one thing about this that I've hated, where he's just like, I'm portraying heel now, and you will shut up and enjoy the ride I take you on, because I'm playing The Rock. And The Rock gets to swear and say the things that nobody else gets to say. And it's like, you should just call him a bitch. Like...
Well, he does get to do that because he's The Rock.
I know, but it's still annoying.
Triple H said that the draft is coming around in a month or so that's good news that they have that pretty soon after Mania, instead of it being like, well, we'll see, we might do one this year, and then we end up waiting too long, because it seems like that's the best way to do it. You get through the WrestleMania season, you have a little bit of a lingering time afterward, and then you can reset the year. Hence why we do the fantasy league that way. But I only got one more hot tag, so that's the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. If anything else, you guys think we should talk about before we get into that?
Let's talk about AW show, because there's a few things on that happened on Dynamite that I think is worthwhile.
I thought it was an awful show.
I thought it was good for parts. I'd say there were parts of it that I didn't like. I don't think the Edge thing, that Adam Copeland thing that kicked off, was completely pointless. Didn't need to happen. Will Ospreay versus Powerhouse Hobbs was a great match. Danielson versus Lance Archer was good. Chris Jericho can go away, as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't need him involved to hook. The Billy Gunn and Jay White thing was absolute bullshit.
Oh my, yeah. Hold on, let me just real quick. Jay White should. I've never felt so strongly like maybe he made the mistake of signing with AEW.
I think he did. Yeah.
Jay White getting tossed around by like, what is he, 58, 59-year-old Billy Gunn? I'm not like, I'm not being ageist or whatever. It's ridiculous. This guy was the IWGP World Champion on multiple occasions. Why is he getting almost zero offense in on Billy Gunn for like 7 minutes? I didn't like it.
You know what I think people probably find funny about it is that I would bet money that White said that they should have the match like that.
Yeah, I do too, but it's still bullshit. Like
no, he shouldn't have done it. Like it was a bad look and it's a bad match. And then doing with the DQ, but I'm pretty sure that White was probably the person that said, "Hey, we'll go about it this way."
Yeah, because he was probably like, "Yeah, I did invade his home. You should beat my ass." But still, Billy Gunn in his prime wasn't booked that strongly. That's 25 years ago.
25 years ago, God. That's, yeah, I guess so, really.
Yeah, 99, I'm right.
But, it's just odd to think that he was 35 at that point, and that was his prime. But the Willie Nightingale segment I thought was good. I think she cut a really good promo.
I love that. I did.
She should win the title at Dynasty.
She will be, and then fighting Mercedes at.
And then immediately lose it. And then immediately lose it to Monet at Double or Nothing.
I'll reiterate this when we get into that, but I think Julia Hart's retaining.
Not a chance. Did you not hear Mercedes say
she's got the next person at Double or Nothing?
Yeah, I'm fighting the winner in Vegas.
Yeah, I think she's fighting Julia Hart.
We'll see.
Yeah, I have my own thoughts on what that's going to be, but we'll talk about that more when we do that Dynasty predictions and stuff. Bucks advanced into the final of the tag tournament, and then they had the breakup of the best friends with Trent Beretta hitting Orange Cassidy with a running knee, and then leaving everyone in chaos behind,
including his mother.
Yeah, and that's that's actually been a long-term story that's been like bubbling under the surface for a good 3+ months. So they even did this nice little video on again on Twitter afterwards of Chris Statlander confronting him afterwards, and then Trent says something in her ear and then walks off, and then Chris Statlander seems to be contemplating something because we know that she's turning heel soon as well. So maybe that's part of this whole implosion of the best friends coming. Thunder Rosa beat Mariah May, so she's going to challenge Toni Storm at Dynasty and lose, but there'll be a match. And then the contract signing. That was, as it was a contract signing. You can only really go so well with those things. But I don't think it did a great job of building Strickland up.
Yeah, this left
it definitely
wasn't going to win.
Oh yeah, Strickland's going to win the title. I'm pretty certain. But I don't think this was a blowaway episode of Dynamite. But I don't think it was that bad.
I skipped through it within 15 minutes. I was not interested. Oh, that sucked. That was whatever. It did nothing for me for the most part. But
yeah, you didn't watch it, so yeah.
I felt like I didn't need to. I don't think I missed anything. I watched the segments that I cared about, and I skipped I didn't need to see the Mariah May match itself. But yeah, the Jay White thing, totally agree. Contract signings always pretty much suck to me, whether it's whatever company, whatever they do. I don't like contract signings. I think that they're stupid. So I'm not a fan of those. All right, so let's get into our final one here. All the predictions when it comes to SmackDown tonight, it doesn't really matter with most of these things, but there is the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. They really don't like throwing the word memorial out there. Every time that I see the graphics these days, it's just the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. That has its group of people that may or may not include some other people that are not on that graphic, but they've got, names up there like Indus minus Jinder Mahal. They've got Omos. They've got all three members of Alpha Academy. Ricochet's in there. Bronson Reed's in there. Nakamura. We got Apollo Crews and people who, of course, aren't going to win. It's not going to be Ashanti the Adonis or Cameron Grimes. I am fully going, if it's not Braun Breaker or Solo Sikoa somehow gets into this mix, then it's Andrade.
If I was going to put any member of the Bloodline in it, I'd give it to Jimmy. Because Jimmy is not wrestling tonight. And hey, Jay won a couple years ago. Now Jimmy won. It's kind of like that Owen Hart wins the King of the Ring, but a lot less prestigious. But now I've given the individuals named. My two picks would be either Chad Gable or Omos.
So my pick remains to be Ricochet. As I said beforehand, I think that they are building him up for something. So I think they're I say I don't know what necessarily is. Maybe that is just him winning the Speed Championship, but
That's what I think.
that. Yeah, but I think that they might give him the win here as well as part of that. I mean, they've given him a good amount of consecutive wins on Raw, so I think that there's a good chance that they follow it up with giving him the victory in the Battle Royal, even though it's for the most part meaningless.
I will say that my prediction goes out the window if Braun Breaker is anywhere near the ring for the Battle Royal, because then it's probably just Breaker.
Yeah. I'm surprised Breaker's not involved in it, but I think that maybe the reason why he's not is because they don't have him planning to win, so they don't want to have him lose either. And, I mean, front and center is Andrade, so maybe you just have to add E to the Andre the Giant thing. That's the closest way you could do that. And that's the hot tags for this week.
Hold on, you want me to read the statement from the boys?
Is that a thing that just popped up?
Yeah, we had planned to stay quiet publicly about our release to take nothing away from the biggest show of the year for ROH. It's Supercard tonight out of respect for the locker room that will be on it. Due to Tony's comments and the numerous fans, media outlets, friends, and coworkers that have reached out to us, that isn't an option for us anymore. We want to apologize to the Ring of Honor fans and to the AEW fans that were invested in the storyline and were expecting both of us to be there. With so many fans wanting answers, in addition to numerous people that have voiced their comments, at the thought of us really just no-showing some of the biggest opportunities of our lives due to Tony Khan's statement, here it is. My brother and I were told that we would be included in this story through Supercard, and there are plans for us to be with John and Taya leading up to the show. We were asked to pitch several ideas for ourselves, insinuating that we would get the opportunity to show that we can wrestle more in the future. On March 16th, our scheduled date following Dalton losing custody, for the first time in our history of flying in North America.
I know to cut you off, but like this quote is like they did like 4 tweets with like 4 images in each one. Can we kind of like have the?
Oh, did they really? I'm actually just reading it.
Yeah, it's way too long. Essentially, they've just like they've come out and said the reasons behind them supposedly no showing those events and saying that they had reasons for it. But yeah, I think we need to wait until there's like a TLDR out there because it's way too long.
Yeah, this is super long. So essentially, no, they're not taking his words.
They sent a 4 screenshot thing, and it comes down to nuh-uh.
Oh God, because there's screenshots from both of them. Yeah, I can't do this.
Well, all right, everybody, that is 644 in the bag. Of course, leave your thoughts in the comments section below for all this and more, and stay tuned to so much more this weekend. We've got the ROH Supercard of Honor and Sakura Genesis pay-per-views popping up this night. We've got SmackDown with the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal heading into the Hall of Fame. Tomorrow morning, we'll start getting into, at 11 a.m., the countdown to NXT Stand and Deliver, because they aren't calling it the kickoff anymore. And we will, of course, be doing live coverage of that on Smark Moment. I'll have my EWN post up as well. We'll immediately be following that with the NXT Stand and Deliver post-show review podcast, where you can see the faces of Rob and I before we get even more tired. And then later on in the night, of course, we have WrestleMania 40's first night, WrestleMania Saturday. Do all that coverage, post-show immediately following that. You'll see us much more exhausted than Sunday around. We've got the Slammy Awards, which I don't plan on doing too much for, but maybe we'll do something on at least like Discord or something. And then we've got WrestleMania Night 2. So this weekend is packed. We want you to be on smarkoutmoment.com for all of this. Join that Discord for anything that we might end up having watch party things or something. We might end up just having discussions over there. Facebook.com/groups/the Megamaniacs for those things. Make sure you do that Funko Pop contest. Make sure you vote on the Smark Madness tournament. Make sure that you join the Darkcast tier for whatever we end up having coming up in the future. Make sure that you go to the link tree at amangotree.com. You can find links to all sorts of different Smark Moment and Fanboys Anonymous type content there. Follow me at Tony Mango. Follow Rob and Callum too.
Yep, follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. More importantly, follow Fightful because we're all over the place for the weekend and it'll be a lot of fun.
Yep, you can follow me on Twitter at Weekmaster14. Check out the power rankings every single week over on smarkmo.com. This Saturday, the one it'll be going out before WrestleMania. It'll be the end of the 2023-2024 iteration of the power rankings, where you get to like the league table at the end and find out who has been like the most featured person on the power rankings. So check that one out. And then of course the fantasy league is coming at an end this WrestleMania weekend as well. As it stands right now, there are 58 points between myself and Tony at the top. So still SmackDown to go, and then the double points that'll be gained at both Stand and Deliver and both nights of WrestleMania. So there's still plenty of points to be divvied out. So we'll find out at the end of night 2 who has emerged victorious.
Okie dokie, folks, you know the deal. Hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. Leave those comments below and stay tuned for many, many, many more things coming your way. Adios for now, though. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.